Hello everyone, welcome to A Year of Game Design, the video journal where I document my progress, spending a half an hour learning game design every day in 2020, then creating just a short weekly video journal that documents that progress and how things are going. This was a pretty good week. Most of the time, no real big announcements to talk about. I spent all my time working on Tundra Runner, which was that project that I started in my first Game Jam, the winter edition, but wasn't able to finish within the Game Jam time span, and I'm just kind of driving on in that. So this is kind of really a game of my own design, trying to build the whole thing out without really following tutorials. And this was a really good week of progress. I think this might have been the best and most rewarding week in terms of productivity. So let's just jump kind of in and take a look and see what I was able to get done. Then we'll come out on the other side and talk a little bit about how things are going from that big picture perspective. So this week all the time was spent on Tundra Runner, this platformer that I started to make for my first Game Jam, the winter edition. And basically I've been just kind of trying to chop away each day and pick up one new thing. And there's a lot done, I think, since the last time. This week felt really productive. And I think maybe the easiest way to do it is to kind of just play and to show a little bit. So the last time, I think I left at the checkpoint working, but it wasn't working in terms of being a functional place where the player would respawn to if they got there. And the respawning system wasn't working. So the player would be set could be deactivated, but wouldn't reappear in the game after dying. So now if we jump off, the player will hit the kill plane. The game waits for a couple seconds, and then it goes back to the start location. But if you make it to the fireplace checkpoint, or the bonfire checkpoint, and then you die, the game's going to respawn you right next to the fireplace. So you're at this little safety point here. So as you can do that I think as the levels get bigger in the game and things like that, what I'd like to have is a couple of these checkpoints so that if a player dies in a level, they don't have to go all the way back to the start, which would be a bummer. Now, the other thing I'm put in, we need a way to hurt the player. So I created and drew, and again, the part that takes time with a lot of this stuff is you have to kind of draw all this stuff. So I drew this thing that it's supposed to look like an icicle trap. I might redo little pieces of it, but I think you get the idea anyway. And now if the player comes over here and hits the icicle trap, boom, they die. And they respawn back at the spawning point. So that's kind of fun. And we move that up here. Now, this up here, then the next thing to do is put in a moving platform that the player can jump to. This, however, I just put this one in to give an example of one. It's a little bit high. So let me see if I can move this down and we can get this working to a place where he can actually jump onto it. Let's move it over a little bit. So I'm just kind of moving it here in the scene, and you can see it moving in the game window over here. So now if we fire up the game a little bit more, player can come to the checkpoint and should be able to jump up on top of that. And then now they stay in that same position, so they stay on that platform, which is actually something you kind of have to code in. And then the player can jump back down and continue on in the world. So moving platforms are in. The checkpoint system and respawning system is working. We've got an icicle trap that's in there. The next thing was to create a moving enemy. So this is basically just a vampire snowman, and you have two checkpoints, and the script just has this snowman running back and forth like the moving platform. It's just moving back between one point and the other. When it gets to the other point, it says, okay, I'm here, and then it goes back. So just a very simple enemy. This also will kill the player if you hit them, turning them into a big mush of orange vapor. And now let's see, this is a little tricky here actually. You can screw this up, there we go, okay. And the player yet can't hurt the vampire snowman. I think what I'm going to do eventually is put some kind of a spot. If you could jump on the vampire snowman's head, for example, and land on his head, then you would kill the snowman, or at least wipe the snowman out. So that's something I think I'll probably put in at some point. Let me make the jump here. And then the last thing that I worked on, this was an idea by Custard Prophet. I didn't want to just put coins in the game because that, again, was too Mario-esque, and I asked for ideas, and Custard Prophet came up with a great idea. How about Christmas ornaments, or Christmas bubbles, as they say them on the other side of the pond? So I thought that sounded perfect. And I don't know if these actually look like Christmas ornaments, but I was able to put in some sparkly animation to draw that and get that in there. And I think that's close enough. At least it looks like something appealing, and you can kind of see the little hook there. So these would be something that the player can collect and increase their score as they go along. You know, in the top right-hand corner, I got the score in after I built these in first. And so now I think the yellow ones are 1 point and the red ones are 5 point. So if you jump through that, your score goes up over here by 5. Jump through that, score goes up by 1. So this would take it to 11 and then 12. So the Christmas ornaments, kind of these collectible systems are in. and the scoring system is in. So all in all, I felt like it was a pretty productive week. I mean, pretty much sat down every day and said, gosh, I'd like to get this done. And then in anywhere from a half an hour to an hour, I was able to crank through that and get everything done for that particular task. So it felt really productive. I felt like I'd start with an idea and was able to build it and get going. And, referring to tutorials and different things like that, and the stuff I don't know how to do was kind of looking it up and kind of figuring out how to do it. But it's starting to feel fresher too, which is good. Going forward, however, I don't think there'll be the same sense or the same feeling of productivity, because I think the next thing, really kind of looking at this right now, between the evil snowman here, death by evil snowman, by vampire snowman, between the snowman, the checkpoints, the icicles, the moving platforms, the jump, the kill plane, and the scoring system, there's kind of enough pieces in here really to start a level design. I could build a tutorial level and then build the first level. I think these are the items that I'll use for those levels. I might add the hot chocolate in or something like that. So really what I want to do next is to start to build the user interface and the kind of the life system. Ideally, what I'd like to have to do is the icicle and the evil snowman don't kill you on one hit. They just weaken you. So on the top left-hand corner of the screen up here, there'll be a life bar system. So as you take damage, your life points go down, and each of the different enemies in the game will have a certain point value, a certain amount of damage they do to the player. And then the hot chocolate maybe be something, I actually put a medical kit in the game that you can pick up to regenerate health or something like that, unless there's a cold theme medical kit that we could do. But anyway, yeah, that's something to think about. And then the other thing that I want to put in is the heat, the cold system, so that when the player is away from heat, their body temperature starts falling, and if it goes down to the point, they freeze to death and they die, and then they have to replenish heat throughout the level. So really two kind of metric systems, and a life system, and then having a reset for the level so that if you die, enemies come back or don't come back depending on where you were in the level and stuff like that. And all of those things that don't really have a visual impact so much, but they take a long time to do. At least for me, they take quite a while to do. So that's, I think, the next thing I want to do is to try to grind through that user interface stuff, get the heat bar, the health bar working, the life system working, and then be able to reset a level. And then right after that really comes in, once you have a second level, is to have some kind of a mechanic to move the player between levels. So I don't think the next week or so or 2 weeks is really going to be all that much visually different, but it's kind of making a game around these little functional pieces. But I'm excited to take it on, and so there's a little bit of a look at what was able to get done, and let's jump out and take a look and see how we're doing kind of mentally in terms of enjoying the adventure or struggling and things like that. So I think the thing I'd like to talk about now, last week I talked a little bit about how I really felt like I needed to break away from tutorials, because the tutorials are really you're in a dark woods and someone's got a flashlight and they're leading you through the woods. And so you really don't have to do a lot of that big picture thinking. And I really wanted to create a game of my own design, because that really forces you to find the flashlight and find your own way through the dark woods. And that aspect of it is starting to feel a lot better. My first week doing that was week 5, and I felt lost. It was kind of a struggle, but now I'm gaining some confidence there. So that's felt really good. Kind of an idea. Okay, I'm going to try to put this in the game next, and then I'll hack away at it and get it done. And next time I'm just going to put this in the game next, and I'll hack away at it and get it done. I've got a Trello board I'm using. I'll put a link to it if you want to take a look at it, where basically I just have tasks and really try to carve the project up into manageable chunks, so I don't try to do too much, and so I can keep track of things, and so I know exactly what to focus on next. And that's been really helpful. But the thing that I've noticed now, and I'd like to talk a little bit about to wrap up this episode, is that I've always felt there are 3 types, there are 3 levels really to learning. And the level you really want to get to is what the task is you have to do, and you know how to do it, and you've got the skills to be able to do it. So you know what you need to do. Say, for example, I want to put in a scoring system in the game so that when you hit one of those Christmas ornaments, it puts a score up and the player score tallies and stuff like that. So I know and I have a rough idea on how to do that, and I have the skills to do it without really looking up tutorials or anything like that. And that's really, I think, the big goal you're trying to get to. The level below that weaker level, but you're still there's that you have an idea of what you want to do, but you can't do it on your own yet, and you really need help to make it through. So you got to look up tutorials, you got to find video, you got to look up in the Unity kind of help engines and the Unity documents, you got to ask people online, you got to Google stuff, and you got to figure out how to do this thing, although you have a pretty good idea of how it needs to be done, you just don't have the skill to get it done yet. And then the weakest level, that bottom level, is you look at something and you're like, I have no idea how to put this in. And so one of the examples I use when I was looking at that Space Invaders game where they're coordinating the interaction between waves of enemies in an arcade shoot 'em up. No clue how to do that. So I really needed to see someone else do that to even have an idea on what skills I need to be able to do to get that done. And what I've noticed over the first 6 weeks now is that 6 weeks ago, I really felt like there was a lot more stuff in, wow, I have no idea how to do this. And there was a ton of stuff in, okay, I think I have an idea how to do this, but I can't remember at all how to do it. And so I really need to kind of dig into tutorials and help. But what's happened over these 6 weeks is that stuff has started to kind of move its way to higher levels. So there's now probably, I think, a good maybe 6 to 10 things that as I'm doing it in units, like, oh, I need to do this, and I know how to do it, and I can do it on my own without looking up any tutorials or help. And that starts to feel powerful. That's really where I think you need to get to say that you understand a game design engine or understand the game design process, is that you're able to do much more quickly without having to look up everything. I mean, I'm sure you're always going to have to look up stuff, but it's just the percentage of what you have to look up is much less. And for the first 3-4 weeks, it's pretty much everything. I have to look up everything. There's nothing I could do in week 1 and week 2 that where I have an idea what I want to do and I know exactly how to do it. And now starting to get a handful of things there. So that's starting to feel good. And there's more things now that I think I understand how to do that I still have to look up, but there are fewer things. Well, I won't say there are fewer things, but there are a lot of the things that were things that I didn't know how to do and I had no clue how to do it have now moved down to the point where, yeah, I know how to do that. I just don't know how to do it exactly. I need to do it like 5, 6, 7, 8 times before I get there. And the converse part of that is there's now have understanding just the power of Unity and what it can do. There's a lot of things that, wow, I know Unity can do this, but I have no clue how to even set up the idea for it. But that big thing, that idea of things trickling down where I've got a few things now that I know how to do and I feel like I can do them confidently without looking up the documents, that's starting to feel really good. And I think that's been the biggest kind of aha moment, if you would, that I've had in the past week or so, is that, yeah, I feel like I'm starting to learn this. And I'm kind of excited. This is the end of week 6, so still 46 weeks left to go. I'm hopeful that this kind of sense of progression can keep going and that by the time I get to the end, be able to say, wow, maybe instead of having like 5 or 6 things, maybe there's 50 things or 100 things that I feel like I can do with Unity and I don't have to look up so much. So I thought that was kind of an interesting observation, and it is kind of a little bit of a confidence builder to see that starting to happen, and that's what I was hoping would happen, but obviously got to keep plugging away. So many things still to go. I still feel very much like a beginner, and there are so many things that I just don't know how to do. I mean, game design in itself, it's just a huge, huge field, and Unity is extraordinarily complex, and there's a lot of coding that I still have to learn and things like that. So still very much kind of making my way through the beginning stages, but starting to feel like, oh yeah, I'm getting a few tools in my tool belt that I don't have to look up. So that's felt good. And with that, I think let's wrap this up. This is the end of week 6. I've started in a couple of days now on week 7, so I'm still plugging away. Hopefully next week's episode will come out in about a week from now, and we'll talk a little bit more. The goal again is just to kind of keep plugging away at Tundra Runner, trying to work at that the user interface and some of the features that are connected to that. So thanks again for stopping by. If you have enjoyed the video, please give it a thumbs up. If you're new and want to subscribe to kind of be able to follow this, please consider subscribing. If you've got any ideas on things that you'd like to hear me talk about, or things that would be cool to do, or anything that you'd like to do that you think might be interesting to put into the series, I'd love to hear it, because I've really enjoyed the comments and the conversation and some of the ideas that people have brought forward for this. It's really been fun. I wasn't sure how this would be received, and I know I've still got a very small channel, so the number of views are still kind of small, but it's really been enjoyable for me to be able to read people's comments and reactions and the feedback on it. So thanks so much for all the people that have taken time to do that. Really appreciate it, and I look forward to keep driving on. Thanks again. Have a great day. Bye.